All right. Welcome to the, I don't know.
The Carrie Show. It's the Carrie
Welcome
Show.
to the Carrie Show. It's been a while. It's been a while. Oh
We've
my
been called the
gosh.
Carrie Show.
This is, what's it called? Welcome to the Conspiracy Cut Podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
So
FDA approved podcast.
well, I
Yeah.
have a podcast name that I
Do
actually
you
bought
really?
the domain for because I had an intention before, but I couldn't line up with the founder of SoulQuest because of the things.
Oh, okay.
But so I just don't know if it will apply. So the name of my podcast is Intervined.
Intertwined.
Yeah, like an ayahuasca plant vines.
Oh,
It's
like
about being
intertwined?
intertwined
Oh,
and intertwined.
snaps. That's
Yeah,
cool.
because I weave a lot of information together, and
Mm-hmm.
when I had created that name, I had intended on being able to do it at SoulQuest, and I would interview volunteers and guests.
Dude, no way.
But I never did it because I can't get lined up with Chris.
I told
It's such a
this is
problem.
why I've told them, like, you guys need a podcast to show like
No,
before and
it's
afters.
the reason he doesn't have any of those things because of him.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, so even though I said I was
Yeah.
going to do it and he approved it, I could never get on the phone with him to talk about when I could get into that room. And I see him every weekend, literally.
Dang.
So I never
That
did
makes
it, but
sense.
I bought that name.
Nice.
And I just don't know if it's applicable for.
Yeah, well, I racked up like 3 people's emails. So Mark, the guy that did the stuntman for The Rock. I don't know if you
Yes,
meet him.
I know Mark. Yeah,
He's a really good guy. I'm like, I want to get him and just interview him and hit his whole
yeah,
like,
I
journey.
just got
And then this other girl named Sarah. She had an amazing,
Sarah Kell.
amazing
I
success
adore
story.
her. I adore. Oh wait,
You know,
was she a guest or a volunteer?
volunteer.
Yeah, Sarah Kell.
You know
with
she
the
was gonna
ponytail.
die?
Yeah, I do because she was vegan.
No.
That's why she almost died because
She said she had like Crohn's disease and was like
she
bleeding.
went vegan and she went to an institute where she lived, and I believe it put her in a coma.
Oh, she went to an
Veganism.
institute.
And her guy Lars was also there volunteering. He's an older gentleman. He worked the fire. He had a ball cap. He's
Okay.
like 25, 27 years older than her.
Okay.
He is so lovely, and he is like a historian of Florida or something, and he's fascinating. He does kayak tours, and they are just the most interesting, lovely human beings. They both have a story. He's written several books about like the natives in Florida and the history here, and they just kind of do their, earthy thing together.
So they're together?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah, they're lovely.
So Sarah was saying that she had, I think, Crohn's disease, which progressed into like a bleeding disorder that I
Yeah.
thought it was like ulcerative colitis.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this, but the hospital only gives you like 5, well, she was in there for 5 months, but the hospital only gives you a certain number of blood transfusions you can get
Yes.
until they cut you off. The
Yes.
hospital lets you die.
Yes.
How did you know this? Like, I didn't even know
Yes.
that. And I worked in the
Yeah.
hospital for many years.
Yeah, they're wicked. I just mostly know about all the diabolical aspects. Like, there's so many.
Oh my
There's so
gosh.
many. Yeah.
And then so there
And
were
I might have heard from her too. Like, that might be where I picked up that piece of information because that's all I do is collect. So I don't know where I always get everything.
Yeah, so they said they were going to let her die. And then she says, like, at a last ditch effort, she went to go sit with ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And then she's like, she felt, her whole story was amazing. She's like,
Yes.
I felt like I was sucked up out of my body into the quantum, and it was like fixing me. And she's like, apparently I was shaking or having a seizure, and then, or whatever it was. And so they came over to her and they said, this volunteers were like, are you okay? And then she's like, I went into my body, and I was like, I'm okay. And then,
It sounds just like her. Yeah, that's so awesome, right?
dude, and I was
Yeah.
like, and then she said, like, I think 2 weeks later, or maybe a month, 2 months, I don't know, however long, but she's like, I was cured and did all the x-rays and everything. And
Wow.
I know.
Now she's one of us at Soul Quest. We love her.
You've
She's
probably
great.
seen so much at Soul Quest,
Yeah.
haven't you?
Yeah.
You need to start making a list of like people we need to interview.
Yeah,
like-
I have a list in my head already. I know so many people to interview.
Other than the guy who went into a coma and then came out a psychic.
That was really fascinating. Yeah.
Walter.
Yeah, I've met a lot. Like
Walter.
even yeah, I guess even not everybody to interview because some things are just some things are just like you just see so much crazy stuff too.
Like what? Oh wait,
Oh,
are you
everything.
disclosed to say?
Oh,
or do you
I've
hit them?
literally seen people hitting violent. I've seen
What?
somebody have their beard almost ripped out and torn to the ground.
Oh my God.
Ripping chunks of hair out, punching. I mean, I seen some
Jumping in the lake?
Really, people have jumped in the lake. Not in a long time. We're pretty strict on
Oh,
that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but I mean, yeah, you just and they're going through something really powerful. They're in the medicine. So
Hmm.
it's not like even like, oh, I mean, I have a belief that who you are on the mat is who you are off the mat.
Oh
um,
yeah.
that we say that in yoga too, and it's totally true, and to a degree, but it's like, people when they're acting out on a medicine, they're really saying like, this is the poison that I'm experiencing that's inside of me right now. And
Mm.
I'm trying to get the poison out, and it's making me angry at you. It's making me do things that maybe, you wouldn't really do. You wouldn't normally just physically assault somebody. You
Yeah.
might treat them terrible with your words. That's why
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, maybe who you are on the mat is who you're off the mat. You might, somebody
Mm.
that's always gracious and kind, you really don't see much them coming and going, fuck you on the mat,
Yeah, yeah,
I have seen that one time. No, I have seen that one
yeah.
time.
Really?
And when I saw that,
It's like
I was
a.
saying like, that's the medicine. She needed that so bad. Everybody went by. She was saying, "Come here, look at me," and then she was like,
Oh.
"Fuck you," and like sweetest little doll of an older lady. And it's like, that is the medicine. Just like when I see a white dude dancing, and I'm
Yeah,
like, that's the
yeah,
medicine.
yeah.
He ain't ever done that free in
I
his
haven't
life
seen
like
that move
this
before.
moment.
It's
Yes,
like,
yeah, and just feeling that comfortable to do it.
oh, okay. So speaking of like, that's the medicine. There was a lady. My first time I ever sat with ayahuasca, like last year. Um,
Okay,
there was a lady that was. We did it indoors, like we did in the Lotus.
everything's changed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything's changed. Man, I
yeah.
love the outdoors
Yeah,
so much.
yeah, it's so important.
Well, we were inside, and it was okay. I was like, fine. I didn't know what to expect. But
Yeah,
this lady couldn't stop moaning,
yeah,
and like she was having sex,
yeah,
like an
yeah,
orgasmic
yeah,
galaxy, or I don't know, universe,
yeah.
or an orgasm. I
It's
don't know.
bliss. She's in bliss.
And then when we all shared, which is cool because we all the little ones, little cabins got to share,
Yeah.
and she's like, yeah, I felt like this like universal God touch inside of me, and it was like, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
like a universal orgasmic
Yeah, so we
scenario.
there there are definitely a lot of moaners. I've definitely been a moaner on occasion, but I moan a lot when I smoke DMT. Like, I just
Really?
lay in bed and just moan. I'm just
Yeah.
in bliss, and I can't stop moaning, and like, I can't feel or experience my body, so it's just sounds inside of this medicine journey. And I know it's coming from me, but I don't exist, and I don't know where I am right now, and I'm just
Yeah.
moaning in my bed.
Okay, so when you smoke DMT, is it? I know DMT is inside the body and it's released in copious amounts when you're born and when you die, right?
Yeah, so they say, but I'm not sure that there's any studies, but I've studied a tremendous amount of near-death experiences,
Uh-huh.
and all I can think 90% of the time when I'm watching is, oh my God, they're having a DMT journey.
Yeah, because is it released in the pineal
Yeah, and
gland?
so I
It's always
definitely
there.
think that that's the vehicle in
Yeah.
and out for
And it,
us, and that is it. So a
hmm.
really interesting thing that I was shown about DMT when I was on psilocybin,
Mm-hmm.
which was weird, but I got this full download. But it's applicable to psilocybin, but it came directly about the DMT molecule. And what I was shown was that inside of our brain is all of these channels, and each of these plant medicines, especially ayahuasca, which the information I received, that it has its own coded key inside of the DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take it in, that particular key unlocks certain channels in your mind. And it also activates the pineal gland, which is
Mm-hmm.
crystalline, and it's the light of the body. Okay. And so together, those two create a vehicle for the consciousness, the soul, to go up and out. We go up and out every single night. That's what we do when we're sleeping. Part of
Yeah.
the night when we're in REM, we're with our astral guide,
Mm-hmm.
actually traveling and nourishing and meeting with our higher self. So it's not unusual for us to leave our body. We've done it every single day of our life.
Hmm.
But when we take these keys of these certain plant medicines in and we light up the right channels, zoom, out you go, because you have a crystalline battery in your pineal gland. So
Oh
that's how we're
man.
transported out of our body.
Are we actually taking in DMT or is it just releasing it inside
No, we're
of
taking
us?
it
Oh,
in
okay,
the
okay.
plant. Yeah, it depends on what they're brewing it, but everything you're taking is, yes, you're taking in DMT.
Oh, okay. Is
Yeah,
DMT inside of us at all
yeah,
times?
yeah. Some trace amounts at least.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Because I'm like,
but
how does it
more at other
released when you die
times.
then?
Yeah, because your body manufactures anything it wants, just like it
Oh, wow.
manufactures proteins and cholesterol and
Mm-hmm.
everything else. It manufactures what it needs, and it knows what it's doing. It's intelligent, and it's coded. It's coded to run that program,
Mm-hmm.
because that's like saying, well, how does a baby know to suckle on the mother's breast when it comes
Mm-hmm.
out of the womb?
Yeah. Yeah, and
It's coded.
how does a cat know how to be a cat? I'm
Exactly. A
like, yeah,
giraffe
yeah.
gets out and just starts walking.
Do you
You
think
know.
humans are decoding themselves as we live in this like first world commercialized society that humans were never supposed to
Yeah, so I would just not use your word decoding. I
yeah,
would use we're causing code corruptions.
read okay,
We're
we're virusing
Right,
ourselves.
we're
We
causing
literally are
code
though.
corruptions. And I even just speak to that, like we cause code corruptions on ourselves all the time, especially to fit into our family unit. So we come
Mm,
coded as us, but we're in a family and maybe there's some kind of a challenge or there's some way we need attention and we're not getting it. And so we'll violate our own divinity, our own code in
mm,
order to get our basic needs met. And then we begin running that new code. We've created a code corruption. And
mm,
that's where, and I'm talking about it on like a very quantum, like how are we coded level, but I'm really just saying like shadow work or like stored trauma, like it's kind of
yeah.
all the same, like, because any shadow work, if anything that you brought up to me, if you said, Carrie, I felt this, and I said, okay, wait, let's stop right there. When's the last time you felt that way? Let's blow that up. Like it's hypnosis, right? Let's blow it up.
Hmm.
Let's tap into it. Okay, what are you feeling? And then I say, okay, take me back to the first time, the very, very first time that you ever heard or felt that way. You're going to take me back to some time when you were very, very young that you didn't even remember that you knew.
Mm,
And you're going to say something like, oh, I'm standing in my crib crying, or I'm in
wow.
the car, whatever. And like, oh, okay, so that's the very first time you ever felt that way. And in shadow work now, or in hypnosis or anything, we get to the root of that. And what we learn about ourselves as a species is that when that happened to that little version of you, one, two, three, four, even up to seven, because our brain makes its first major change at seven, but is that um, when something happens to us and we do not have the information yet, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the processing ability to understand why, when you said you needed your diaper changed, mom said, not right now, go away, with an
Mm,
attitude. Maybe it was that dad just yelled at mom
hmm.
and they can't pay the bills. And so, but a little child knows none of that.
It's
So,
me, yeah,
what,
and they
yeah,
store that
that's all they
trauma.
can do. So then what they do immediately is write a
Uh,
story that makes sense to them.
mm-hmm.
Because if you have nothing to work with, like to somebody else, you would, or to an adult, you might go, ooh, okay, I can definitely see on her face she is not having a good day. I know that was not about me. You can
Mm-hmm.
process it, but a child can't. So they go, okay, when I ask mom to change my diaper, I'm an inconvenience. So what I'll
Mm.
do is I won't ask for help ever. And
Oh, that
mom,
translates
yeah.
into
And so now we go,
wow.
whoa, so that's like the shadow work view of these code corruptions. So we created these, but then we come to it as an adult. We're running this program, this code corruption that we started when we were two, and mom did this. Then we're saying, I still believe that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, actually, you don't believe that. You just haven't actually got to the root and addressed it. You've looked at all the symptoms from that root, the tree and all the branches and all the ways that it touches your life. If in that case, it's about like not feeling worthy and feeling like an inconvenience to mom. So I'll just become a wallflower. So that's going to manifest in all kinds of ways in your life. Like you're not going to ask for help. You're not going to say when you have a
Mm.
need or when you're feeling something or when somebody's walking all over you. You'll just tolerate anybody treating you anyway because you just feel like, oh, I wouldn't want to be inconvenienced and I know how to get love and it's just be a wallflower and let people treat me anyway. So you're not meaning to do it, but you're running the program. And if we can just talk about what is
Yeah.
at the root, then you can go, oh my God, yes. So my mom was probably just, I understand my parents' whole marriage now. I'm grown.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably totally a thing between mom and dad, and I internalized that, and bam, we've healed something
Oh,
because we rewrote the code
mm-hmm.
back to reality and back to true
What it really was.
understanding and in alignment with ourselves. We go, wait, shit, that shit wasn't even mine. I made that
Mm-hmm.
up as a 3-year-old.
Dang.
Shame on
And people
us for
are
living
carrying
as a 3-year-old.
around
We're carrying, yeah,
this entire life,
yes,
and we're making decisions based on past traumas. This is what I
yes,
tell people all
that
the
we don't even know
time.
we have.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even
And
call
then
them
we're getting into bad
traumas.
relationship, bad, and then
Yeah,
bad jobs, and then
yeah,
wow.
exactly. So I'll give you one that was kind of interesting that came up for me recently that really taught me something. Was I had
Mm-hmm.
a moment where I suddenly spontaneously went into this memory from when I was a child. And this was a really scary thing that happened in my life. My whole family was there, and we all experienced this really scary experience. And it's just a story in my family. We all went through it. We all have these things. Like, remember the time that the car almost went off the cliff in the snow up in Crestline? And it's like you just are like, yeah, what time? And you tell the story like it's no big deal. But I spontaneously went into this story the other night when I was drifting off to sleep, and I was in that theta brain state where all of a sudden I was just gripped with fear, and I was like remembering it in the the most personal way that I had ever remembered it. It wasn't a shared story. It was my personal experience, and I realized in this moment, oh my God, that's a course in trauma. Like, we were going off the side of the road, and the men were outside of the cars holding the cars back on, and the ice was slipping. We were
Oh
up in
my
Crestline down south of Big Bear,
gosh.
and we were just little, and we were all hanging on the right side of the car.
And how
And
old were you?
I was probably 4 or even 6
Wow.
maybe, and we were all on the one side of the car trying to keep the weight there. And my dad and my half brother, who I had maybe only ever met one or two other times, he was maybe 13, and they were outside the car with all the other men, and they were slipping in the ice towards the cliff, and they were holding the cars on the road, and no northbound traffic could come because it was closed at the bottom, but people were trying to get down the mountain because of the storm. And it was horrifying, and
Mm.
I had never considered it a trauma, or that it could be affecting me ever, because it's a family story. Of course, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a fucking huge deal.
How
I
old
don't
were
trust
you?
other people. I was like 4 or 6.
So all those
But
catecholamines
right,
are
and
just
so, like,
rushing
feel the
through.
way I feel when other people are driving, or when I'm not in control of the
Wow.
car, or it's really difficult. And and then I always
Mm.
think to myself, like, oh well, I'm a Leo and I like to be in control. But it's like, no, 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 you have a trauma. It's not normal
Yeah.
to be worried when other people are driving, because they value their own life. That's
Mm-hmm.
why they're driving safe.
Yeah,
And they
exactly.
value your life too, so trust me, they're driving safe, right? But inside of me, it's like, this is
Like,
scary.
oh no.
Yeah.